Hello everyone and welcome to the Speak Freely podcast. My name's Emma Dunwell and today I'm joined by activist and UkColumn presenter and researcher Sandi Adams. Thank you so much for coming on, Sandi.
Oh, thank you, Emma. No, it's a pleasure.
So first off, before we get into the whole agenda and globalism, I'd like for us to watch and go through this viral video of you dropping truth bombs at Glastonbury Town Council in a meeting in, when was this? Was this a couple of years ago?
It was March 2023.
So, Sandi, would you like to speak now? I got it.
Thank you, and thank you. Well, Leela's covered a lot of what I was going to speak about, which is great because it leads me to look at the bigger picture. And yes, it's great that I couldn't find anything in Mendip District Council about 15-minute cities, but it's important that we know about them, and it's important that we know about low, the low emission zones that they want to implement in smaller towns. So what I'm just saying is basically, this ideology isn't a grassroots, the whole 15-minute city ideology is not a grassroots initiative. It's actually a global initiative. And it was brought in by Boris Johnson, Michael Bloomberg, and Carlos Moreno in 2004 under the C40 Cities International organization, which Sadiq Khan is now the chairman. Contrary to propaganda, it's not a grassroots initiative, yeah, I've said that, but a top-down global plan under UN Agenda 21-2030 to really roll out the 17 sustainable goals under net zero. And I know that all the green people here are comfortable with net zero, but if you understood the longer-term implications of net zero, and I've given you all the absolute zero document, and I hope you'll read it because that coloured bit shows you what is to be achieved by 2030. And that means no flying out of the UK, no ships out of the UK, no cars at all, and no, all wood burners to be ripped out of every home and every gas appliance to be ripped out of every home by 2025. Now, that is a government document, UK fires, absolute zero, and this is where we're heading for with net zero. We will literally be imprisoned on our own island. And this is what this top-down global control is all about. You think it's a green agenda to actually save the planet. It is not. It was implemented at the Earth Summit in 1992 by a bunch of oil billionaires, crooks. And and all of you, bless you, are trying to save the planet and you've been hoodwinked. I was in the Green Party in the 1990s. I left. I was a member of the Ecology Party. I left because it got taken over. It became a Trojan horse for the technocratic agenda that I'm talking about, Agenda 2030. And I tell you what, they planned this from the 1970s. It's a long-term agenda. And I would love to be able to give all of you a presentation. I've been on this for 15 years, and I've been giving talks all over the world about this via YouTube everywhere, because I'm passionate about it. I've impoverished myself doing this. So I just want you to just hear me out. We're living now in what's known as what's coming is what's known as a zero trust world. So whether you know it or not, the digital ID is coming. Now, this is a big thing for everyone to understand. Digital ID is really the way the government will actually have all your data in one place. And they're bringing this in by December this year. This is really serious. And then they want the CBDCs after that, the central banking digital currencies. Now, this has got nothing to do with being green. It's big business. It's massive business, because underpinning this whole agenda are capitalist stakeholders. Now, this is what's worrying, is that this whole green agenda is based on top-down control of us, we the people. And unfortunately, people who literally glue themselves to buildings, bless them, they've got their our best intentions at heart. They're barking up the wrong tree. They're actually supporting the people who want to imprison us. Well, it's communitarianism, call it whatever you like. But either way, it's not anything about our rights and freedoms. It's about destroying our rights and freedoms. And Ian, you're a butcher. Look down that list. By 2030, they want to get rid of meat and lamb and everything. This is ludicrous. This is all being done without our consent. All of this is in place. And the zero trust world means that you will not be able to, they're getting rid of VPN, you will not be able to open your computer or any other you won't be able to access your bank account, your health records, anything, or even go into a hospital without your digital ID. Your digital ID will be unlocked by your facial recognition, and in that process, you'll be data harvested. Your data will be harvested from all from your digital ID. Every bit of your information will be on there. That is being sold to stakeholders on the blockchain by non-fungible tokens. I don't know if you understand all this, but this is actually your data is being sold on the blockchain, or it will be. And this is a form of currency. This form of currency they will be using is the CBDC, is from the CBDCs, from the central banking digital system. Every time you make a transaction, everything's recorded, tracked and traced. And so they will know all your shopping habits, your health records, everything. All that is sold. So we are becoming a commodity. Us human beings will become a commodity. And that is what the whole global enslavement is about. And we have to be really careful because it's all tied up with the 17 goals and it's implemented by the United Nations. If you think the United Nations are our friend, you are wrong. The United Nations, the United Nations and the World Economic Forum are working together, and there's a document on that table which proves that the government are working alongside the World Economic Forum, and they are bringing in drone technology which will be surveilling us from the air. In that document, a government document, it says they will have 900,000 drones flying in our skies by 2030.
They're already here.
Well, we know they're here, but we're not seeing 900,000 of them. But this is a bigger picture that we have to look at. And what I would really welcome is if we could have, the people in this room are worried about it. They know about it. If the councillors aren't aware of this huge pernicious march of AI technology, then we need to talk about it. This is Glastonbury. We can action things that will go out to the whole world. And that is the most important thing, John, that whatever happens in Glastonbury reverberates around the whole world. You know that, I know that, we know that. We have to really take some sort of action and stop this absolute march of AI technology that is actually there to control us, enslave us, turn us into a commodity and restrict our movement and turn us into a prison planet. Because the digital ID will actually stop you. It's like the Chinese social credit system. You will be stopped from doing things or saying things if your credit score isn't right. They will be literally, our whole currency will be run, because they're getting rid of cash, the currency will be run by your carbon credits, which has all been set up to trick you, basically, into not moving out of your smart city apartment, have everything delivered by drone, and to you to experience life through a virtual reality headset. That's all in the pipeline too. So we need to really work out where, is this a world that we want our children to grow up in and our grandchildren? And please, can we have an open and honest debate about this and about your green policies? Because it's not green and it's not democratic and it is actually working against us. It will enslave us. Your green policies will enslave us. Obviously, we all want a beautiful planet that isn't polluted. We can deal with that without the top-down control and the AI. And that's what we need to strive for, is a beautiful green planet, properly green, not astroturfed. And we must understand the whole thing with CO2 in this, because even I, as a kid, was taught that CO2 is the gas of life. It makes things grow. if you talk about net zero, it's zero you, it's zero me, it's zero plants, it's zero everything. And the carbon, CO2 rises from the sea. The most of it rises from the sea. It's not anthropogenic. It's not. And I want this to be looked at properly, because everything has been skewed by the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that was set up after the Earth Summit to actually skew all the data. And actually, it was all found out in ClimateGate 2009. Look it up, where the 1,079 emails were hacked by an American. I think that's why Assange is in jail. But by the Americans, actually finding out that the Hadley Research Centre and the University of East Anglia were actually lying about the climate data, which actually sent us into the whole climate change thing. So we need to, and also the Club of Rome have admitted that they've created climate change to make humanity if you like, the scapegoat, and make us the enemy. And that's in the first Global Revolution, page 115, a very interesting Club of Rome document, which actually made up the bones of Agenda 21, which became Agenda 2030 in 2015, when it was endorsed by President Obama and the Pope in Rome. But anyway, that's all stuff that I've been doing for the last 15 years. I honestly have got all the background knowledge into it, and I really, really want this town to wake up so much. It's been... Thank you.
Okay.
I have to say, I did talk about this 10 years ago over my kitchen table with you, John, and you thought I was a conspiracy theorist. So please think again. It's happening. It's actually happening now. And it's right, it's coming at us like a railroad train. We need to do something, and do something now about what's coming at us, okay? Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
I mean, first of all, that was just a brilliant clip. Before we get into, obviously, what you actually said and what you were talking about, can I just ask what the kind of reception it was that you had? I heard people cheering, but obviously the actual council members, what was that like? What were the looks on their faces?
The council absolutely hate me. And it's funny because they've banned me from speaking in the town completely, because
They've banned you?
Yeah, I can't speak in any venue in the town. They've said I'm they said I'm a racist and an anti-Semite, because I call out the Jewish bankers, all that stuff, the Zionists.
Wow.
So I get a lot of flack from them, but the town love me. I mean, we had a ball this weekend when they're trying to turn Glastonbury into a World Heritage Site, which is all about the digitalization of the tourist industry, actually, and it's going towards digital travel, where you're wearing a virtual reality headset. I've gone into the whole deep dive of where all these sacred sites that the World Heritage want to claim, and they're trying to do a bid on Glastonbury at the moment, and all the town are all up in arms about it, but the council are just really going for it, and they hated me being in the town hall this weekend. They really hated it. It was quite funny.
Oh my gosh.
Because we're not having it.
Well, yeah, I mean, no one is, especially now that it comes to digital ID. And of course, everyone who's been called a conspiracy theorist for God knows how long for talking about digital ID has just been proven right. And I suppose it's kind of a bittersweet moment, because it's, vindication, but also it's terrifying.
But it's also terrifying because, the infrastructure's there. I mean, digital ID isn't a thing that we can actually oppose right now, because the infrastructure is all there. It's almost as though that's a little bit of a distraction, because the Brit card, it is a thing, and it's not something we can actually say we don't want that, because at the moment all the biometrics are in. You walk into any shop, they've got your facial recognition anyway. But I think it's where they're bringing it all into one place. And what they really need are the data centers. That's what we've got to concentrate on. And they did a wonderful, a fantastic demo in Sefton in Merseyside against the data center that's being built there. And they're so awake up there. It's brilliant. I covered it on the column today, that people are really waking up and fighting against this. And it fills me with amazing hope that it's all going to be fought, you know, in a measured and really intelligent way as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another thing that you spoke about when you were addressing Glastonbury Council was the climate agenda.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that is still really kind of hard to get through to a lot of people, especially the younger generation, people who are in universities right now. I mean, I actually have recently changed over my university course, but I was originally studying environmental study.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then,
a lot of people are.
Even then, I remember reading one of the books and I got to a page where it was literally just in a paragraph, they'd essentially tried to blame the entirety of climate change on racism and colonization.
Oh.
And it was at that moment that I was like, I think I'm going to change my course.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, the DEI, that the complete brainwashing that's gone into our education system and our health system and our police and everywhere else, it's been absolutely shocking, really, and how people are completely indoctrinated with these ideologies of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is brought into every aspect of our lives now.
Yeah. Was there anything, because obviously there was a few more subjects that you covered when you were addressing the council, for instance, like the Club of Rome. Is there any things that you could elaborate on for us, for anyone who might not be familiar with these topics?
Well, one of them is the Club of Rome. Now, this is Agenda 21. It's the most boring book in the world. No wonder they made it boring, so you wouldn't want to read it. But it's all in UN speak. But what made the bones of that document was Club of Rome reports like this. This was actually the last one before the Earth Summit. There were several that went before. And I've got them on my shelf, but I don't know where they are because I've got so many books. But this one I actually dug out the other day for Ben Rubin because he wanted this particular quote. Because the Club of Rome were brought together as a global crisis think tank by the UN in 1968, and it was based at the Rockefeller's Bellagio estate in Italy. And it's there that they tossed around ideas to try and unite humanity under a common threat. And they went through all sorts of things, but they wrote various Club of Rome reports. One was on depopulation, which was the very first one was in 1971. And that was called Limits to Growth. And then the second one, they wrote many of them, but the key ones, the second one was Our Common Future, which was written by Gro Harlem Brundtland, who happened to be she was the socialist prime minister of Norway at the time. And she wrote it. And that was all about making everything in the world equitable. Everybody had to be equal. So all our industry was shut down in the 1980s, and we were given a lot of aid to India and China. And so we lost our industry, and it's all about leveling up. It's like leveling up. They're saying that in the councils now, but leveling up the whole world so that it's a very communistic idea.
Yeah.
And then the final one, just before the Earth Summit, was this one. And I will read you a couple of quotes from this because this is key, because it actually that's the one I was talking about in that address to the council, because this is the one where they literally say, and they admit they made up climate change, because they're talking about the sort of the fact that the Berlin Wall had come down, so they hadn't got the Cold War anymore. They needed enemies. The First and Second World Wars were over, and bankers need enemies. They need wars, and there was no enemy. So they said they were talking about scapegoats at first. It said the need for enemies seems to be common a common historical factor. States have striven to overcome domestic failure and internal contradictions by designing external enemies. The scapegoat practice is as old as mankind itself. When things become too difficult at home, divert attention by adventure abroad. Bring the divided nation together to face an outside enemy, either a real one or else one invented for the purpose. So then they find their enemy on page 115. I think I mentioned this. And it says, the common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. And then they say, but in designating them as the enemy, we fall into the trap about which we've already warned. And then he said, the dangers are caused by human intervention, and it's only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. So we became the enemy. This is why we're being attacked. We became the enemy in 1991, just before the Earth Summit. And at the Earth Summit, they got 178 countries to sign up to Agenda 21, which was global governance. They didn't know that. They were told they were saving the planet. All the heads of state of countries thought they were signing up for saving the planet. They weren't. They were saving. They were signing up for this global agenda for global governance. And whether they understand it now, I don't know. But it was all done through the UN, the WEF, and the World Economic Forum. And I think the trouble is that we now in this trap, because everybody signed up to it, and they say, oh, but you signed up to it, this is it. And then it became Agenda 2030 when they launched the 17 goals, as I said, in Rome with President Obama in 2015. Yeah. So it's just snowballed since then. And now it's the fourth industrial revolution, and they accelerated it with COVID-19, So there we are.
This is the thing. I mean, well, first of all, thank you for the brilliant rundown. And I mean, I don't even call it the pandemic anymore. It's the plandemic, or I've heard some people say scandemic or convid, things like that.
Yeah, it was a big con.
And not only that, wasn't it? It was one of the biggest global transfers of wealth as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, because they tried to get rid of cash by saying it was full of virus or whatever, but a lot of people didn't go back to using cash. A lot of companies, started using everything. Apple Pay was used more. All those apps and those non-cash apps were used, and of course, with that there's a big percentage of that goes to the big corporations that have those platforms. And it was suddenly the divide between suddenly the super rich became really super rich. And, we have become poorer since. So this whole idea that the 17 goals are to alleviate poverty and help you, help humanity is a farce. Each one is designed to take away everything that you hold dear, every single one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And who are the main drivers? Obviously, we have the globalist organizations, we know, like the WHO, the WEF, like you've just said, the Club of Rome. I mean, the fact that there's actually a think tank dedicated to coming up with, new threats to unite the people in some kind of weird, twisted morality is absolutely insane to me. What are the 17 sustainable goals?
Well, they are. How can I explain this? I've actually got an explanation of these on my website, because they're given to you as sugar-coated nice things. Like, for instance, goal 1, to eradicate poverty from the world. Well, that's kind of simple. You just make everybody equally poor. And you put them onto data sets where they literally have to account for everything, like put them onto carbon credits, put them onto UBI, universal basic income, so everybody gets the same. And if you step out of line, that can be sanctioned. And so it puts you into this whole digital economy where everything is viewed, everything is tracked, everything is traced. So you have to be a perfect global citizen to get your rewards.
Yeah.
It's just like being, being caged, like being a caged animal and being fed, you know?
Well, this is the thing. A lot of people are saying, digital ID is the next step towards a social credit system.
Yeah.
I mean, I was speaking to Dave Atherton not too long ago, and he was comparing it to kind of like where we've seen countries split, and one take, capitalism, one take communism, this kind of thing. Like we saw with Berlin, and we saw how the different sides, how one had progressed further than the other. And so when people think of like social credit, they do think of, even though it's kind of like a far left ideology, it's almost fascistic. The way you said, like if you step out of line.
It's totally fascistic because it's typical of the Marxism that has never worked throughout history, and people get very, particularly I find the middle class are the worst. The champagne socialists, they're the ones that can't let go of it. All your grassroots socialists have gone the other way. They're actually behind us, behind our movement, because they can see it, because they're in poverty, they're in deep poverty. But there's an awful lot of people that really, really don't get it. And it's usually, I call them champagne socialists. They really get on my nerves.
I just feel like anyone, usually, and it is typically the middle class.
Yeah.
It's very much like, if it doesn't come across my picket fence, I don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I can be as idealistic as I like. I can eat organic food, and I can pretend to be this, this really caring person. But actually, at the end of the day, do they see what's going on in places like Liverpool? I mean, it was so good to see these really grassroots Liverpudlians really fed up with the system today from the Saturday protest. And I think, the country is waking up, and it will be the real working class people of this country that will pull us out of this mire, along with all of us as well, who are doing the good work.
Yeah. Well, who are some of the specific people that are involved in kind of driving these agendas? Obviously, we have Klaus Schwab, we have Bill Gates, which I actually also wanted to ask you a little bit about Bill Gates after this. But who are the main individuals that are driving this?
Well, do you know, it's almost like there's vying parties in the whole of this. You see, you've got the big technocrats and the billionaires who really, like I mean, I have to say, he is a Zionist, Yuval Harari, who wants to be this sort of elitist godlike, this almost as though they are too, they're too, they've got this they intellectualize the whole technocratic agenda, and they think that it's a kind of a new enlightenment, and that they are the gods. It's a dark enlightenment, and they are the gods. And this is what really gets to me, because they really do believe that they're superhuman. And who knows, they may have taken something or injected themselves with something that makes them live forever. I don't know what they're about, but all I know is that what they preach is anti-creation, is anti-biological. And Yuval Harari quite openly says, I want I foresee a non-biological future for the world. Now, anyone that says that, it's a death cult. It's a nihilistic death cult, and they're absolutely bonkers. And he's just, all of that lot. There's many of them. Peter Thiel, for instance, and all that lot. They're in that section, that sector, and they're pretending to be Christian, but they're not.
Well, exactly. I mean, how can you pose yourself as Christian? I mean, it all comes down to sort of, they're all like eugenicists, and it's all like transhumanism.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think that it all kind of comes down to just the goal is to desecrate us as much as possible? It's very anti-Christ. Well,
Very
Antichrist.
And literally,
that was completely accidental.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. It is Antichrist. It's almost, a demonic, a Luciferian, whatever you want to call it. They even themselves, they call it the Dark Enlightenment. You've got people like Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of these people, but they're the ones that sort of, Matthew Glamore, actually, I have to say, they're the ones that want this sort of feudalism by tech and codes. It's almost like if it's that whole tech feudalism and elitism as well. And that's where they're coming from. They really think that they are the technocratic gods who will rule this earth, and that we will be turned into cyborgs or whatever. I don't know what they want for us, but it certainly isn't. And they do that. I mean, there's this sort of weird salon society of elite people who get together and decide what the world's going to be. Well, maybe God has a different idea about that. You never know. It will create whatever you want to believe. But yeah, so it is. It's very, very nasty, very dark. But then you've got, of course, the whole, you get called an anti-Semite if you talk about Zionism, but there is a problem there as well with them controlling the whole money aspect of the world, and everything is they can buy anybody, So you've got lots of factors, but all of them, are very, very wrong. Very wrong.
Just to interrupt for 2 seconds, guys, I would like to remind you all that healthy skin should never mean compromise. We've all trusted big skincare brands, most of which are connected to Big Pharma, for far too long, with big names of ingredients on the back that you can't even pronounce, which is why I'm so proud to announce the Speak Freely podcast's new sponsor, which is Forticare Tallow. Now, this is their whipped tallow balm that I've been using for the last few weeks. This is their face moisturizer. They also have an accompanying body moisturizer and other lavender scents, as well as a natural sunscreen. And if you're like me and you question everything, especially when it comes to healthcare products and Big Pharma, then you should definitely go to Forticare's website. And I'm also proud to say that you can get 20% off your first order when you use the code SpeakFreely. There is one man in particular that I wanted to ask you about. Now, am I right in thinking that you used to work for Microsoft? Is that correct?
I didn't work for Microsoft per se. I went to art school and I learned how to be a set designer. I worked in theatre. I worked at the Old Vic. I worked at the National Theatre, and I loved it. I used to paint big backdrops. But in the 1980s, I'm showing my age now. I'm ancient, by the way. In the 1980s, no, it wasn't the 80s. I was working in theatre in the 80s. It was probably around the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. I was all of us in theatre were lured into what they're known as corporate live events. It was industrial theatre, if you like, and it was people who did installations, and it was when all the big corporates suddenly started really promoting things in a very theatrical way, and Microsoft were one of them. And I was working for a company in Chelsea called PCI that did these installations, and I designed installations. It was a bit like interior design, really. And so Microsoft wanted us to do a installation in Notting Hill, and it was called Microsoft Home. And we took over this house in Notting Hill, and it belonged again to some globalist sort of very high, very, very wealthy man who, it was one of his houses, and we cleared it all out and put new furniture in it. And they had all the Microsoft tech guys wire it all up to be an intelligent house, you see.
Oh,
and I thought, oh, this is really weird, and everything in it was intelligent, and I just made it look pretty, and hid all the wires, that was, or most of it was wireless actually. But so, and then it was a real success. And then they gave us another job, which was a bigger job. And it was called Microsoft Life Squared. And this time it was supposed to be a mini smart city. It was a London square that again had buildings all around it. And but it was actually a school. I've still got the pictures of the before and after. It was a disused school in Chelsea, or it was part of Chelsea Art School. And I had to turn the playground into a London square, like literally excavate it, put railings and lamp posts and grass and benches and everything. And then I did all the interior design in the buildings around it. And Trevor McDonald came and interviewed Bill Gates, who decided to come over to see it. So he was flown in from the States, and then he got a helicopter to Battersea, and then he was chauffeured in. And we all had to sort of, say hello. And I thought, then all he was a computer geek, basically. He was a Microsoft geek. And he looked the same jumper, same boring face, everything, but younger. And it was just a really weird, that was my big wake up point, actually. It was, there's something not right about this, because we'd never heard of GPS, and it was in the car, in the square, and everything was intelligent, talking to everything. And I just got this really strange feeling, particularly when we had to meet him, and he was a very odd man.
So what was the kind of vibe that you got from him then? What was it like?
Oh, it's funny. When I told James Delingpole, he said, "Did you smell the sulfur?" And to a degree, I did. I did get a really bad feeling, and I didn't really like what I was suddenly working on. And it was a very strange feeling. And he was odd. I mean, he only ate crisps and Coca-Cola for 2 days. Very odd.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Like a child?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's very childlike sort of person. Yeah. I'm sure he just was, in his spare time, he just played computer games, and yeah, strange man.
You usually find that most of these big tech giants, whether they're, like social media app owners or website owners, or people like Bill Gates, is they usually are just kind of like really, they were intelligent kids, and now their toys have just gotten bigger and they just cost more.
Yeah, exactly. They're just overgrown children with too much money and power, I think. Yeah. And that's a worry, because then you've got children in charge of the world, and that's a real worry.
So moving away a little bit from the agenda, we will go back to it, but you also worked for a very well-known band. Would you just like to tell us about that?
I worked, which one? Yeah, I did actually for a time in the 80s, was it the late 80s? I, before I had children, I worked in music videos. And it was when music videos were such fun, because they were really creative, because it was individual little companies doing it, little production companies. And I worked for John Roseman Television in Poland Street as a designer. And he was a funny Jewish guy. He was a presenter's agent as well. He had Jill Dando, and I think he had Trevor McDonald as well. And anyway, he was making music videos, and one of his clients was the Eurythmics, and I did loads and loads of music videos with Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart. That was fun. And I did loads in the, I worked with Julian Temple, who was a real art house. He did the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, and worked on stuff like that. And I did Dire Straits and all sorts of really, my life's been really interesting, actually.
Wow, you did Dire Straits as well. I love Dire Straits.
Yeah. We filmed in a disused cinema in Whittleston, funnily enough, and then we were out on the Regent's Park Canal doing that, and Julian Temple directed that one as well. So it's been a really, I did loads and loads of music videos. I can't remember who else, but loads of them.
Well, it's an interesting comparison, because like on one side you have like obviously we have the agenda and everything like that, and now encompassed in the agenda, I think, is also it kind of like destroys the family unit, and its desecration of God is the transgender ideology that we've got going on at the moment, specifically among children. And then I also know that, especially when it came to the vaccines, trans ideology, vaccines, and all this kind of thing, BLM, it was all very, very big in the music industry. It was all, there was a lot of virtue signaling from big artists. So what was it like, kind of having like a toe dipped in each pond? Was it interesting? Did you ever see kind of like the worlds and the ideas kind of clash?
Well, I think when I was working in it, it wasn't so much like that. I know Mark Devlin very well, and he talks about the dark side of the infiltration of the music industry. And there was always rumours about the Beatles and Paul, did he die? Sergeant Pepper's and all that stuff. But it was very low level. It wasn't as bad as it is now. The actual kind of the darkness in the music industry and the takeover of it. And you do wonder, because they do say that they changed the frequency of music years and years ago. I can't remember what the frequency is, but it was changed from a good frequency to a bad frequency. Mark Devlin talks about it, and you do wonder whether, that I think there was a concerted effort to really influence young people through, and we know that the New Age and all the psychedelic era was to bring in the New Age, Alice Bailey's New Age, which is very Luciferian and very dark. So, and she was very heavily involved with the UN, by the way, with the Lucis Trust, or the Luciferian Trust, which is the UN's publishing company. So I think the young people, that whole psychedelic 60s, which was a bit before my time, but all of that was very, very engineered, and the music of that time was too. And also the people, sort of Terence McKenna, Leary, all those people who influenced what it was like, the whole culture at that time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems that we're kind of under attack from every angle, physically, politically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It's all very much deliberate, I think, because I mean, a depressed and a weak population is an easily controllable population, which I think is the bottom line to most of these things.
Yeah, but I've been pondering this for a long time, because it's very easy to get down about it all. But actually, I feel it in the depths of my being that this is where we turn it around. Humanity, for once, turns it around, because it's only this time in history that we've had the opportunity of unfortunately, the technology has a good side and a bad side. We are able to look and research and use the internet to find the truth. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's the only time in history that we've had the opportunity to really, really understand that this has been going on for thousands of years. This is Babylonian, it's absolutely, horrible. Yeah.
Well, one thing because I mean, yeah, you are completely right that now that we have technology at our fingertips, I mean, every person has access to some form of technology to research something. And everything that we've got with AI now at the moment, even though it's scary, it can be useful, especially when it comes to fact checking other things if you need it done quickly.
Yeah.
But also what we're seeing mix in with that is the amount of misinformation, malinformation as well, like things that are purposefully misinformative to a malignant intent as well. Obviously, I mean, it's evident from the fantastic looking shelves behind you. You read a lot, and also with online researching. How would you advise people on how to use the tools at hand, but also make sure that they're telling us what they are? Because also we're actually seeing physical books, printed books being changed over time.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do we get around this?
Well, I mean, keep your books. Don't ever get rid of your books. And if you can, go to secondhand bookshops and buy them, because there will be some point where it'll be a bit like Pol Pot in Cambodia, and they'll start burning the damn things. So I think I every now and then I will use AI just literally to précis something, put it into a simpler form if I'm in a hurry. I only use it if I'm in a hurry. But the thing is that AI can be very misleading, and also it's programmed to give you the wrong information. And friends of mine have said, well, AI is saying this. And I said, well, that's completely wrong. So it shouldn't be something that you take for granted, because it does have the ability to go through many, many documents. That's what it's doing when you see it sort of thinking. But I think, it it may not get the right sources, because there's a lot of things being written that is misinformation. So I think the only way you can really keep true to yourself is just use it as a tool for spell checking and fact checking and odd bits, and then double check the fact checking. Don't rely on it completely, because I mean, in an ideal world, we shouldn't rely on it at all. But unfortunately, the world we live in, time is of the essence, and everything moves so fast. So sometimes you'll need something really quickly or whatever.
I read I think I'm about halfway through it, about 3/4 of the way through it, called AI and I. And I actually bought it at the Hope Sussex Music Festival. It's by a guy called Mark Plain. I think he's the founder of Not on the Beeb.
Oh, yeah.
And he's essentially, in this book, he's claimed to, I suppose, hack AI in some kind of way through conversational skill. And in his words, he got it to sing like a canary. He asked it all about COVID. He asked it about the vaccines. He even went right back to the very meaning of the word influenza, which, actually means influence of the stars if you go far back enough.
Yeah.
And he got AI to basically map out the connection between illnesses in the winter. So basically, the flu could actually align with mild radiation detoxing. The symptoms align with that. So that usually aligns with solar flares. That used to be I think it was like 14 years, I think it was.
Yeah, we're getting them literally. I mean, because of the weakening of the magnetic field, we're getting the aurora borealis in the southern hemisphere, and that shouldn't be happening.
It was over my house. I'm in the West Midlands,
really?
in Worcestershire, and I walked outside and I could just see, when you can't quite make out, when it's really dark and you think you're seeing a faint colour, but you can't quite make it out. And I was really trying to think like, am I seeing green? Is it like I'm seeing different colours right now? So I got my phone, and obviously you can change the exposure.
Yeah.
So I changed it a bit, and all of a sudden I could see it through my phone. I could see purple and green and pink and orange. It was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, that was over my house in the West Midlands.
Yeah.
It was absolutely crazy.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, the thing is that all this is almost like this is what happened in 1859 when they had a Carrington event. Do you know about that?
No.
Well, in 1859, we weren't really electrified properly. Only the rich people had electricity. Everybody had gas lamps and stuff. But they had put the cables under the sea for the New York Stock Exchange. And there was the same thing happened. The magnetic poles were weakening. And the sun let out a massive solar mass ejection, which knocked out what would have been the grid. And everything under the sea, all the cables blew up, the ones that were going over to the States. And they spent the next 10 years rebuilding it all. Wow. But if that happened now, we would be in such trouble. I mean, it would bring civilization to a standstill.
So what would happen if we had a huge solar flare?
It would knock out the grid. It would knock out all the AI. It would knock out everything that makes everything work. And I did have a theory about this, because there is a whole sort of coterie of people who I know very well who think that this is about to happen again. And if it does, then it would be worse if we were all forced to go on electric, which is all part of the plan, I think.
Well, this is something else that I've been wondering about myself lately. The amount of cyber attacks has gone up exponentially.
Yeah. And
wouldn't it be, very convenient if we were all moved, because obviously we know that eventually once we're all, on electricity only and, the full shebang with 15-minute cities and everything like that, we know that once we're all comfortable and convenient in our little bubbles, it'll all be taken out from underneath us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wouldn't a cyber attack be and I'm just floating ideas, but wouldn't that be a perfect way to cover up the fact that it's actually solar flares doing this?
Yeah, they could be. See, what is it? I mean, I do know that that there is something happening naturally in our solar system, because there's magnetic, sort of strange magnetic pole shifts and things going on in our solar system, from what I can gather from this group that I speak to. But it in some ways, if the grid were to be knocked out, it could take us back a few years. It would be devastating in some ways because the supply chain would go, like deliveries of food and what have you, and we'd have to be really careful. But it would get rid of all this nonsense. It might be quite a good thing in some ways. I don't know, but and I think the elites know this. I think that's why they're pushing everything so quickly with this acceleration, because I think there's a race. There's a race for them to get everything installed before it happens. Maybe they've got go into their underground bunkers or something. I don't know.
Well, I've heard a lot of rumor about these bunkers being built all up and down the Cotswolds. What do you think is kind of like the plan? Like, let's say I'm just thinking, because lately when I turn on the news, it feels like I'm watching an action movie.
Yeah.
But like the calm before the storm. So let's say if everything goes like full conspiracy, everything kicks off, it's apocalyptic. What are the so-called elitists doing? Where are they going? What's happening there, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, you've got some that talk about going up to space and staying there until it's settled down a bit. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard about these bunkers under the Cotswold. There is a big city under Corsham in the Cotswolds that was built in the Second World War, and it can fit. It's got railway lines and everything under there. You can even just Google it. Just put underground city Corsham, and it all comes up. It's a disused. Massive. And I do wonder, because a lot of the royals live around that area, Tetbury, Corsham. So I did wonder whether they're just close by in case anything happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, they talk about underground cities all over the place. But what do we know? We don't really know anything. We don't know. I mean, it's a bit like the whole Trump is cleaning out the DUMs, and I don't believe anything now until I see it. I don't actually believe things. I have an intuition.
Yeah. Well, what do you think it is we're going to be seeing over the next few years? Obviously, the rollout of digital ID is definitely going to be an interesting one. Do you think that we will successfully resist it if enough people do, or do you think that there's just no hope?
I know that there is hope. I mean, for instance, they get it wrong all the time. Every time they've tried to. I mean, for instance, just take Agenda 2030, for instance. They only created that because Agenda 21 didn't work. They had 8 millennium goals that failed. So then they accelerated it in 2015 to the 17 goals. Now they failed. They couldn't implement those quick enough. So they accelerated it by signing the strategic partnership agreement in 2019 to create and then they had Event 201 to create the scamdemic to accelerate it. So they've done that. And whether they meant us to be locked up for longer, I don't know. But all I know is that they didn't get everything they want, because while we were sleeping, while we were locked up, they were out there putting all the infrastructure in. All the LED lights went in, the biometrics went into supermarkets, loads and loads of stuff happened with the infrastructure for the fourth industrial revolution. Now, at the moment, they haven't built these data centers, which is where they're going to store all the data that they gather from the digital ID. Now, these data centers, at the moment, there's about, I think, 500 of them in the UK. But people have cottoned onto it and now saying, look, we don't want them. And the data centers also, they burst into flames because of the battery storage. They use up loads of energy, loads of water. They're toxic. They've got lithium and God knows what in the battery storage and everything. And they catch fire. And because of the thermal runoff, they take hours and hours to put out. I mean, there was one in Liverpool that took something like 2 days to put out because, they're horrible things. But if people can stop the data centers, and you can do that by really, turning over planning applications and literally, just stopping them. Just people will do it if they think that's a way of stopping the digital ID, because you can't have the digital ID if you can't store the data. So I think we need to focus on that.
People can go out and protest, but what do you think people can do in their day-to-day lives? I mean, I've heard from Piers Corbyn when I asked him, he said that one of the things you can do is to keep cash and, go into somewhere, if they say that they don't take cash, you put the cash on the thing, on the counter, and you announce that it's legal tender, and you walk away with your merchandise. It's not stealing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that would be interesting to actually try. I should actually try that for a video one time.
Did you see Piers with the strawberries? I think it was a few summers ago when they some supermarket refused to take cash. And he went in there and he said, "Look, this is the this is the currency of the realm. Here's my money. I'm not paying with a card." And they were going to call the police. And he said, "This is ridiculous. There's the money. I've paid for it." And he just walked out with his strawberries.
Yeah.
And it was a very funny video.
To be honest, I actually wonder if they would let you get away with it on principle, because they're trying to push digital ID so much. It just makes me laugh, because last night I was in a Greggs waiting for an Uber, and someone just walked in, opened the fridges, and just started choosing, putting things in their pockets, and they were taking their time. Like, they weren't trying to be secretive about it. They're just being very brazen, and they just walked out. No one did anything.
They don't. They watch people shoplifting the whole time.
Yeah.
There is some understanding that if it's under, I don't know, a certain amount of goods, then they just let them go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think the limit is something like £250.
something like that. Yeah. So it's what a world we live in. I mean, you were sent to you've sent to prison for things like that years ago. But there you are. It's the world we live in, and I think everything's been debased, and yeah. But I think what you were asking me, what can we do? I think I did do it. You see, for instance, I had to renew my driving license the other day because it would run out. The 10 years had gone very quickly. I'd forgotten, and I thought, oh gosh, because when I went on DVLA, it said, right, download this app and we want your facial recognition. I thought, oh, blow that. No, not doing that. So I phoned them up and I said, I played dumb, and it's very good to play dumb. I really don't understand all this stuff. I don't have a mobile phone, and I don't have a I don't have a computer. I don't understand all this. And because there's people that don't engage with that. I mean, some really old people they don't understand it.
No, of course not.
So why should they? And so because of that, they do have a facility at the moment for you to do. It's called Find Another Way. It's in very small print whenever they send you, if it's on the website, whatever. If you can't do this, find another way, and you press that, and there's always a paper alternative.
Yeah.
Always go for the paper alternative, which is what I did. I filled in a form, went down to my post office. So I think you have to behave like an old person. Say you don't get it, you don't understand it. Say you're neurodiverse, you just can't deal with all this stuff. And wouldn't it be nice if everybody was able to say, sorry, I just can't get my head around it. It's all horrible and I don't understand it. And then they would have to, they have to keep things in place for people like that. So I think doing that, I think also there's I noticed in Sefton, the way that they were dealing with the opposition to the data centres up in Liverpool is they formed something called a National Residents Association. Now, these residents associations are brilliant. My friend Cassie Langford set it all up. She's brilliant. And she set it up so that people could almost form a shadow council. And so some of these residents associations, they're challenging their local councils, and they're becoming more powerful than the councils, because actually the councils don't do anything. They look after their assets. That's all they do. They might deal with a few hanging baskets in the summer. They don't look after the toilets. They don't look after the infrastructure of the town. They don't help the people of the town at all. They don't help the homeless or anybody. They just deal with looking after their assets, whereas the people will look after the people. And so you challenge them and you take over the power of your council with your residents association. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I've spoken to Cassie before, and we podcasted, not on this podcast, another one, but I think I'm going to have to bring her on again, and we'll
she's
we'll
great.
go through all that stuff again, because it was really fun. And I remember at the time we said, oh, we'll have to do an episode 2. So yeah, that'll be really good.
No, she's great, and she's coming to Glastonbury in a few days' time. So we're going to set one up, and the neighbouring town is as well, because it's definitely powerful. I've seen various councils have wins joining up, because then they can't target you. I mean, I wouldn't have been banned from the town. I probably would have been if I was in a residents association. They can't target one person. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like it kind of gives them the same protection as the unions do. The unions have a lot of protection as well.
That's
so
right.
it's kind of we need to start doing that ourselves, I think.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, would you like to, if you can, please tell everyone where they can find your work, and also if you could recommend any books to us, anything that you think would be useful for people to learn about this stuff.
It's difficult because these books, where I learned it from, I don't know why. I'm quite good at looking at government, certainly at global documents, and seeing the whole agenda just appear. So I think do listen to UkColumn, and I'm going to start doing some podcasts of my own, and I've half written a book, but you can find me on X. I'm at Sandi Adams 2030. I've just opened up a Substack, and I've got loads of articles that I'm putting on it. And I'm on Facebook, and I've got a website called sandyadams.net, which is a very old website because it got hacked a bit. And I've just rebuilt it again, and I'm just adding more content onto that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Sandi. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been lovely, and thanks so much, Emma, for asking me on.